Welcome back, America. Senator Tom Cotton joins me. Good morning, Senator. Welcome.
Good morning, Hugh. Good to be back on with you.
Yesterday, the United States abstained. It abstained when Russia, China, and Iran brought a National Security Council, UN Security Council resolution to the floor. What did you make of America's abstention?
Well, unfortunately, Hugh, it shouldn't come as no surprise to anyone. I mean, first of all, America has been abstaining from strength and competence in global leadership for 3+ years under Joe Biden. And second, remember, this is the exact same team in the Biden administration that led another anti-Israel, anti-Zionist resolution go to the Security Council in the United Nations in December of 2016. So it was outrageous, deeply offensive, strategically stupid, but again, not surprising coming from Joe Biden.
Now, I got to ask you, do you think he actually made the decision? I mean, do you think Joe Biden said abstain on a Security Council resolution, or was it Jake Sullivan or Tony Blinken or Susan Rice?
Well,
because it's just so stupid.
I get the question a lot from our Kansans about whether Joe Biden's actually in charge. And my answer is usually on the big things, especially on foreign policies, of course he's in charge, because only Joe Biden could screw things up as badly as he screwed it up over the last 3+ years. As our friend Bob Gates, Barack Obama's own Secretary of Defense, who saw Joe Biden up close, once said, he's been wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security question of the last 40 years. That was 10 years ago, so we need to update Secretary Gates' statement to say the last half century. So I have no doubt that Joe Biden was personally involved in the decision to abstain from vetoing an anti-Israel, anti-Zionist resolution at the United Nations Security Council. Again, Hugh, this is not some ordinary run-of-the-mill resolution about deploying African Union peacekeepers to yet another war-torn country. This is the United Nations once again targeting Israel, as it has for almost its entire history. That should always rise to the level of the President of the United States.
Okay, we're guessing here, but in that famous song from Hamilton, the musical, In the Room Where It Happens, let's assume they had an Oval Office meeting and they knew that this was coming, and they sat down, and you've got Joe Biden and I don't know who the chief of staff is. It's not Zients. I can't remember. And you've got Jake Sullivan and Tony Blinken and our UN ambassador, who's probably in New York waiting for a phone call. I mean, what do they say to each other? Do they have any idea that within a couple of hours, Hamas rejected the deal that the United States obliged Israel to accept and put forward to Hamas? Do they connect the dots?
Of course they did, because, of course, Hamas did, I should say, because they are very savvy manipulators of international opinion, and they watch people like Joe Biden and the Democrats he has around them, and they know that they can just keep saying no, and Joe Biden will keep moving in their position. That's exactly what's going to happen, Hugh. What passed yesterday at the Security Council is going to become Hamas's new baseline to negotiate more concessions. I don't know if this administration thought through those implications or not, or if they just viewed it through the lens of UN Security Council politics, like, well, we already vetoed one and they vetoed ours, so now it's time to strike a deal, as if, it's a city council horse trading over who's going to get street lights, or for that matter, their own domestic politics. I worry, Hugh, that domestic politics, though, is really just a cover for their deeply held anti-Israel ideology. I mean, Hugh, you've heard a lot of people joke, and you've read the memes online that says, Joe Biden is now conducting Middle East policy to win a single city in Michigan, Dearborn, to try to maintain viability in the Electoral College. Part of me worries, Hugh, that they're actually using that as an excuse to do what they actually have always wanted to do with Israel, especially at the United Nations, as we saw at the end of 2016.
All right, now I want to switch subjects on you, Senator. You've got a staff of I don't know how many people, let's say 20 people. Yesterday on MSNBC, there was a coup underway against Caesar Conde and Rebecca, who run NBC Universal and hired Ronna McDaniel, and they all came out and ragged on their bosses, and they ragged on Ronna. And I think they actually tortiously defamed her, and I think they created a hostile workplace, and I think they opened NBC to vulnerability on a legal basis. But if your staff did that, if you went on the floor of the Senate and you voted A, and then everybody in Senator Cotton's office said, boy, what a moron, what a dummy, this is horrific, you can change your mind, Senator, what would Tom Cotton do?
Well, first off, Hugh, they wouldn't even have to do that. I fire them on occasion on principle just to strike the fear of my staff everywhere, like Cesare Borgia. Hugh, obviously what's happened is NBC shows that the lockstep ideological wall that you have at these mainstream media companies. You know, NBC decides to hire one Republican, Ron McDaniel, and they're up in arms, openly rebelling on air. I guess Chuck Todd missed the irony that I think a former Democratic operative was literally seated at the same table as him Sunday morning when he was denouncing his bosses for hiring a political operative. But everywhere you turn on MSNBC and CNN, you have former Democratic operatives. And that seems to be hunky-dory, okay, with Chuck Todd and Joe Scarborough and the rest. But hire one Republican? Nope, open rebellion on the air.
Well, do you think, I mean, I really do think this is a moment in time when NBC could just come in and salvage their brand by firing everyone at MSNBC. Because it was wall to wall yesterday. And I thought to myself, does the entire country realize that these people are nuts?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a good job of demonstrating that to the entire country, Hugh. Again, these are, especially on MSNBC, which has portrayed itself not as a straight news broadcast, but as a opinion or editorial network. And it's fine if they want to be left of center, but you'd think that they would, at least on occasion, want someone like you, as they once did, to provide an alternative viewpoint. You know, one person on a panel of 5, for instance. But no, you hire one Republican, and they immediately man the ramparts to protect ideological uniformity at their network.
Now, I made an argument last night on CNN that if you wanted to hire one person who could get in touch with any Republican within 2 phone calls in the United States, it would be Ronna McDaniel. She could get to Trump. She could get to Tom Cotton. If they want to know who was ahead in Cornyn versus Thune, and they wanted to get someone off the record, wouldn't Ronna be the person you'd hire if you really cared about the news?
I think that's a point well taken, Hugh. You know, because by virtue of being the RNC chair, you end up dealing not just with senators and senators and congressmen, but governors and state legislators and state party chairs and so on and so forth. You have a very widespread cross-section of opinion within the Republican Party.
Yeah, most Americans don't understand that both parties have state committees, and then they have county committees, and they have county chairmen, and then they have activists, and the RNC is massive. And if you've been running the RNC for 6 years, you actually know every Republican who matters in the country.
Yeah, that's right, Hugh. It's that, you know, the RNC, has 168 elected members. The chairman obviously knows those people very well because that's his or her constituency, and those people know their state parties very well. So the RNC chair, whatever you think of or the DNC chair for that matter, whatever you think of the job they may have done in their role, they have a massive network of people who can provide them information and insight into what Republican leaders and Republican grassroots activists are thinking.
Boy, I just think it would be the greatest thing in the world if NBC just gave everyone their papers today and said, see you in court, you're gone. All right, I want to read to you from news items this morning. When Speaker Mike Johnson opened the floor for questions at a closed-door luncheon fundraiser in New Jersey last month, Jackie Colgan asked how, in the face of vehement opposition within his own ranks, he planned to handle aid for Ukraine. What followed was an impassioned monologue by Mr. Johnson, in which he explained why continued American aid to Kyiv was, in his view, vital, a message starkly at odds with the hard-right views that have overtaken his party. He invoked his political roots as a Reagan Republican, denounced Vladimir Putin of Russia as a madman, and conceded the issue had forced him to walk a delicate political tightrope. Reminded by Ms. Colgan, a member of the American Coalition for Ukraine, a nonprofit advocacy group, of the adage that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil was good people to do nothing, Mr. Johnson replied that he kept a copy of the quotation framed in his office. That's not going to be us, he assured her. We're going to do our job. Now, I haven't heard Speaker Johnson say that, but I applaud him for doing so. What do you think are the odds of getting Ukraine the aid it needs, Senator Cotton?
Well, Hugh, I have heard Speaker Johnson say something similar, certainly when he's spoken to Republican senators, but also in public as well, that he's committed to making sure that we provide Ukraine the tools they need to defend their own territory. He's got to put together the vote coalition, obviously, in the House of Representatives, and that's tough these days, as it always is. because you've got a lot of other competing priorities that are urgent too, like, for instance, providing Israel the aid they need without providing billions of dollars of aid going straight to Hamas fighters, and protecting our own border, through which we have God knows who coming in. When you look at the kind of attack you saw in Moscow over the weekend from an affiliate of ISIS, or you look at the chaos we have in Haiti right now, close to our own borders, these are all urgent priorities that Speaker Johnson's members want to address, and I want to address them as well. And he has said, now that we have passed the bills to fund the government through the end of this year, that he's now going to be turning to some of these other legislation that's been percolating, like the effort to try to make sure that we support and achieve all those priorities.
All right, last question, Senator. The 4 Tajikistani passport holders who entered Russia and proceeded to do the atrocities, any reason why those Tajiks couldn't have gotten on the Darien Gap train and flown into Panama and walked in? They didn't have to bring their guns with them. They can get their guns here. But, I mean, any reason why they wouldn't do that here?
Well, I don't see much reason, Hugh. Under questioning last week by me, the commanding general in the Middle East for our troops there said that he thought you could have this kind of mass casual attack anywhere in Europe and Asia with little to no warning in 6 months from Afghanistan. It turned out to be 6 days. He said it might be a little bit longer for the United States, but we know, or anywhere else in the New World, but we know for a fact that we have people flying from all over Eurasia and Africa into Latin America and then crossing at our southern border. And the simple reason is they can get in. And as you say, once they get in, they can probably obtain access to the tools and the materials they would need to conduct such an attack. Again, one thing, it's an echo of the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan 2.5 years ago, but also it's an indictment of Joe Biden's border policies as well.
I agree. I just don't imagine him being reelected. Senator Tom Cotton, always good to talk to you. Thank you, Senator.